let's get things rolling. So, welcome back to Talkaoke here at Hackstock 2017. What are we talking about?
Oh, right now we were just talking about sort of nanobots and small.
About what? Sorry.
Small drones.
Small drones. So,
Drones,
small
yeah.
drones. Why are we talking about small drones? What's
Because there's one buzzing around.
Is it?
somewhere
And
in
is it annoying you? What's the buzzing?
It's not bothering me at all. I think it's quite fun. But it was when it first started up, and I was chatting to someone, and I just heard this zoom from behind me, and thought I was about to be attacked by a hornet or something, and then it materialised.
Can you envisage anything like any problems with that? Is it a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, it depends what it's used for, I suppose. I mean,
what would you use a portable drone for? A little mini drone?
I think what you got from what it was doing, it was actually quite impressively flying around all these people while they're moving and in and out of other spaces. It was about probably 4 centimetres, about 8 centimetres by 8 centimetres. So it was quite small, but it was being controlled by this guy. All I could do is see it from a distance. And he was actually probably looking directly through it, so he was actually seeing what it was seeing, and very cleverly being able to manipulate it throughout the whole room, which is actually full of people. Usefulness, well, some people would use it for certain things.
What do you mean certain things? What nefarious purposes would you use a little mini drone for?
I don't know, but what is this here, and what's happening? Who's around the place? What's going on? That's what I'd like to know before.
Sure.
Anything else?
Well, we're talking right now. We'll be talking a bit later, and hopefully in between as well. So this is Talkaoke, a free-form chat show where we can talk about anything. My name is Rowan, and I'm here to sort of mediate a discussion. Who have we got around the table then? Well, let's start with you.
Mikey. Rick.
Mark.
Michelle.
And Michelle. There's quite a few M's. Good. Drones. Is this what we want to talk about today? The possible applications of mini drones, the good things, the bad things. You kind of hinted at, you were about to, it sounds like you were about to sort of suggest something. You said they could be used for purposes, but what were these purposes? Hey there, you right? What's your name?
Hi, Oscar.
Oscar, welcome back to the table. And
I'm James, how's it going?
Welcome. So we're just talking about the little drone that's been flying around. And Mark here was sort of saying different people would use them for different purposes, and I was kind of curious what these different purposes might be.
Checking spaces where you can't get into.
Okay. Sorry, what's that?
Construction teams, and that was. I think it's already, drones are already being used in construction. Makes it a lot safer for construction workers.
Okay, that sounds pretty benign.
You could use them as kind of messenger pigeons as well, because you could send a message to a particular. It's a bit like your horse thing. Do you know what I mean? But a modern day version of that. If you wanted to send somebody a message, or even a little card, even. You could do it via drone, so you could send your little tiny drone over and just whisper into somebody's ear.
So what? So send it for what purpose? Like, you mean a secure message or something, or?
It could be a secure message. Could be an intimate message. You know, I can imagine all the Valentine's drones buzzing around on Valentine's Day, giving out those special. As long as their identification skills are strong enough. Yeah.
Cool, keep it, Jones. So we've got a couple of new faces to the table. Let's just get a couple of names. Batwan and Kieran. So this is Oscar, Mark, Michelle, Pippa, James, Mikey, and Rick, and I'm Rowan. We're just sort of and Rick. Yep. Sorry.
So another use on the drones that we're going to try later is mixed reality drone racing. So using them for fun.
Okay. So what we're going to see today?
Yeah. So we're going to use the HoloLens to fly the real drone around a mixed reality course. So the drone racing is already a thing. A lot of kids are into it, and so now you could do drone racing with anybody virtually and have a virtual course, and film the whole thing. So fun as well.
And is everyone familiar with sort of some of the terms? You described what you said. It's controlled by a HoloLens or something.
Yes,
just tell us.
HoloLens. We've got one over there. It's mixed reality Microsoft technology, where that's where you converge in a kind of space and time technology interface, controlling digital assets, but you put real virtual content in the space, and then through a screen or your eyes, you can see that content. So that's why they call it mixed reality. So in the old days, that would be pretty cyberdelic.
And is everyone used these kind of things? Has everyone had a bit of a go at these HoloLenses today?
Yeah. Well, not today, but James showed it to me for the first time the other day.
And what was your impressions of it? Like, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, interesting. I can see so much use for it. Don't ask me what right now. But,
I was just about to ask you. Like,
but speaking of use, coming back to the small drones.
Yeah.
I think they could pollinate. So yay!
Was somebody about to just mention that? Well, Mikey, you just had your hand up a second, and then I'll come to Michelle.
Oh no, I was just going to say the HoloLens, the way I see it, would be useful for like fixing your bicycle or something like that, because you've got all those YouTube videos. If you actually, it could actually sort of go, oh, you need to tighten up this part or something like that. It would be really, really useful. Because you see the reality, but you also see a projection of virtual reality on top of it.
Cool. Okay.
And you had a blast as well, didn't you?
What's that? Oh, sorry.
No, Mikey's been in it as well, so I think we've all had a little tinker.
Yeah.
So the guy that invented it looks at it as a way that we'll lose technology. So you'll have less technology interfaces, like you won't need a traditional TV, you won't have a mobile phone, and then you can even bring people virtually into your world within the headset. So it's going to change a lot of things in regards to how we use technology interfaces.
Change seems to be one of the words of the day. We've got a new face around the table. Can you just give us your name?
My name is Jose.
Is Jose?
Jose, yeah.
Cool. Welcome to Talkaoke, a freeform talk show where we can talk about anything. So we've got Michelle, James, Mikey, Batuan, Rick, Kieran, Oscar, and Mark. And my name's Rowan. So yeah, of the sort of two things we've sort of been talking about a little bit already is HoloLens, like mixed reality things, and a tiny little buzzy drone that's been flying around. We had a bit of a couple of ideas about what they could be used for. You got quite excited about something about doing bees.
Yeah, I really think that they could be used to pollinate. If we, obviously we need to continue to look after the bees and propagate them and get their populations back, but this idea of being able to create little mini bees is a great idea, but it's also one that I don't know if you guys have watched Black Mirror, where it was picked up in that and went a bit wrong. But
is everyone familiar with that, with the Black Mirror thing she's talking about? It's here. And Mark, just there was an exclamation when she was talking about the bees and.
I think when you're starting to replace biology by putting tech in place to remove it, that's when it starts getting scary, because then if it's easier to actually use the technology and not the biology, then you're actually going down the wrong lines of where it should be. We should be maintaining what we've got, not destroying and rebuilding what we've got.
And why is it scary?
A lot of people find it scary, and there is a counter argument to it in that our species is not adapting as well to its environment as perhaps it should, and we are causing a lot of problems for the planet, and perhaps evolving into a more cyborg race is a potential cure for a lot of the ills that we are imposing on the planet. It's obviously repugnant to us, the idea of moving beyond our biology, but perhaps it's something that we could embrace as an evolutionary step, and the fact that we are evolved enough to bring our own evolution into our own hands, in a way. It's a very controversial subject. I thought it might be worth.
So it might be good to take control. We've got a new face to the table. Can you just give us your name, please?
Moon. Pleasure to meeting you.
What's your name, sorry?
Moon.
Moon. Okay.
M-O-O-N.
Lovely to meet you. So we're talking about, amongst other things, drones, mixed reality, and some of the consequences of this sort of technology. So it could be scary, but it could also be essential to our own evolution. Any thoughts on this sort of idea? Or do you want to catch up and we'll...
Yeah, open-minded, hopefully.
Would you embrace it? Oh yeah, Kieran.
I've got a comment. Whilst I totally agree with you, I think there's a situation where we could use that kind of thing. So, like Planet Thanet, have you ever heard of it? Which is acres and acres of greenhouse, high-tech greenhouse. If you took the whole bee thing a little bit further, you could create an environment where you're not using pesticides. You might create a little bee that goes around eating all the bugs or something. And in those artificial environments, we might be able to grow most of our food and then let nature return to nature. So there is, I think, if you've got the balance right, it could work.
Okay, so kind of use technology in with nature, not against it, or not as a replacement.
And I think we're one of the few species with beavers and weaver birds that doesn't adapt to our environment. We adapt our environment. So what would inevitably happen is that, is actually happening, is that we would just destroy the areas. You know, if we could grow more in a more compact space, it would just mean there'll be more of us. It wouldn't mean there'll be more room for nature.
So you think it would actually accelerate some of our problems?
And that's inevitably what will happen.
And a new face to the table. Could you just give us your name, please?
Hi, I'm Alishka.
Alishka.
Yes.
Cool, good to meet you. So this is Talkaoke. We can talk about anything. And right now, it's sort of in the abstract, it's kind of like, is technology going to help us or hinder us, but more specifically?
Yeah, if you look at the human population in the 19th century, there was only like 800,000 people, and then after the Industrial Revolution, it just by the end of the 20th century, we were just 6 billion, and now after it's been 17 years, and we are like 7.5 billion. So, and if you look at we are destroying the nature, but we're also creating a new nature, and the technology is replacing, and we're creating an environment for maybe possible artificial intelligence or future cyborgs.
So this is kind of what you were sort of touching on, the artificial environment.
It is a part of evolution, and we are evolving. And when people think about like cyborgs or artificial intelligence, they always like think about like Terminator or something like but like we are already we are already cyborgs. Like we cannot live without technology. Just try to live without internet. It's impossible. People even like they go crazy. It's the drug. Like when we talk about cyberdelics, we already have cyberdelics. And it's super powerful. So it's like we are at the point that we need
cyberdelics. What's that?
It's using technology for. Yeah, it's like in 60s they one of the key catalysts was the LSD, which is a psychedelic. But now there's a taboo around it since it's called a drug. It was first a wonder drug, then it became a terror drug. But it did kickstart something which became Hackstock, and one of the things that became Hackstock. And now we have a cyberdelic and cyber movement, and so we can if you tell someone take LSD or take mushrooms and it will change your mind, most people 90% of the population will say oh, you're just a hippie, or you're out of your mind. But if you create an experience similar to it, and but use it technology, because there's not that much taboo around technology and people believe and trust science.
There seems to be some people suggest there's a bit of fear about technology and there's some scary thing.
No, it's only if technology is taken too far and worked in the wrong way.
Okay.
It's those people that want to do nothing but technology and destroy what is around and think that technology is actually better than science. I mean, things have been evolving for hundreds of millions of years, and we are changing the environment far faster than they can evolve, which is the reason why things are dying out. But it doesn't mean they're still not evolving. And we're still not, and it doesn't mean that we're not still evolving. So where we're going to go is whatever direction we don't know, but we do that we know that we are still evolving. So is everything else. Whether it does go into the technical environment and it actually takes over, that's all for the future. We can only speculate from at this point, and I suppose hope for the best and plan for the worst.
And sorry, let me come to Mike and then I'll come to Jose. Oh no, Jose?
But you see, you're saying that technology until people take it too far. But technology itself, it's already gone too far, and it will continue to exponentially grow that far. So now it's not about that it's separate from nature as well. Maybe it's an extension of nature. It's an extension of the consciousness wanting to explore or experience itself in another self or form. What we need to do here with the cyberdelic movement is how can we realize the therapeutic values of transcendental states of consciousness, so then we can incorporate it into our technology today, so then it can enhance our perception of reality.
So, Mike, do you kind of concur about this? We're trying to use technology to expand ourselves?
I just want to go to the thing about the fear of technology. So, in the previous session, we were talking about how no one trusts these trust science or trust the drug companies. When we delved a little bit further about that, what they really don't trust is the companies, the corporations, the institutions behind that, the actual science. They trust, and it's the same with with the technology. I think we trust the technology. What we don't trust is who's in control of where that development actually leads, and that's, I think, the key issue going on here, is that who is actually controlling the development and to whose agenda. The people around the table want to open minds.
Well, yeah. So who should be in control?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, technology is is growing like really rapid, and then the problem is that we are not adapting to it in the same in the same speed. And the ones that they're adapting to it in the same speed are still the the 1%, and they're using this technology against us. So and now I think this next 10 years.
Who's they?
Sorry?
You said the word they.
Whatever, I don't know, like big corporations and companies, and they provide us things like, for example, social network, and we think that they're just doing a good thing to us, but we actually, not to use it, we are their products, and they're using our data, and they're tracking us, and we're giving them the information completely for free, and we don't know what they're doing with it.
But you don't trust it.
Well, I think it's better to question and be aware and be cautious. Well, be cautiously optimistic and question everything, what they can do with it.
Cautiously optimistic. So embrace progress, but just be a little bit mindful, open-minded about it. Kieran,
I was just thinking that I was in the Institute of Engineering the other day, and it had a little display cabinet of all the wonderful things they'd made. And it dawned on me that when we discovered nylon, we thought it was an amazing thing, and there was a pair of stockings there. And it turns out it's going to be the thing that destroys our oceans and probably our whole planet. And it seemed wonderful. And I think that's the problem with technology. We have absolutely no idea. There is no they. We just do not know where it's heading. And I think we should never jump too fast, because every time man tries to sort out the environment, they fuck it up even worse. So that's
So what were you implying there? That we shouldn't try, or that we should just
I don't think we should have so much faith in technology, and technology should be trying to solve problems, but not trying to pretend that it can really, it shouldn't jump the gun in terms of its ego.
Anyone kind of agree or disagree with this, that we should be open-minded or skeptical, or what's the mindset we should be using?
Later on today, we're going to have Cyborg Nest here, and Cyborg Nest have actually cyborgs. They've implemented a technology where they can feel the sense north. So later on we'll have people that will be talking exactly how cyber technology changes their senses of how they feel. And for example, within the Cyberdelic VR Blortasia over there, it's now been featured by brain surgeons before the patients go into surgery, in regards to it's been proven to kind of numb pain as well. So we're kind of in an unknown territory within this cyber people, cyborgs, cyberdelics, and kind of that's kind of trying to work that out. Is this kind of what we're here for? Yeah.
How do you think it should work?
What, the cyberdelics?
Whose vision should we be trusting, and so on?
So I go back a little bit to Timothy Leary. He originally was into psychedelics. He said, drop out, and then he got into cyberdelics and jack in. It's just that once again, with the corporations, Facebook, trusting the data people who own the technology, and also the people who are then trying to make the experiences, is probably not the right way, because we need he always looked at it as a medium that maybe would change the way we communicated. But once again, this thing here, something like 58% of people feel addicted to their internet technology. So overlay virtual reality, which we know can do cognitive good, it could also be bad. So once again, that's why I don't know what the answer is.
Come to Batuan in a second. Jose.
But the thing is that no one really knows, we're in this state in human history where it's this limbo of all these mounting crises happening up, and everyone is just carrying out doing work as usual, And right now, I feel like, in a way, it's not relying on technology to solve the problems. You see, technology helps us to solve the problems, but the problems maybe come from within. Maybe the problems are a collective problem that we have separated ourselves from it. And I feel like the next revolution that needs to happen, it doesn't need to rely on an external thing to solve it, but actually solve it from within, and it will start from individual, each of us.
And what might that look like? This kind of like solving problems from within.
I think like I totally agree with Jose. Like we shouldn't like see these technologies as the ultimate thing that it will solve the problem. Instead, we should see them as a tool that that will teach us. And for example, like some people in the 60s, they really believed that LSD was going to solve the problem, but it was actually I think it's important to see that it's just a tool, like like a book or like a talk that you go to and a substance that you take. But the important thing is what it changes in you and how you digest that experience and then actually learn from it and apply it to your environment. And that I think that's more important than I think we need to raise an awareness for that.
Okay, and so we treat technology as a tool. I mean, what a tool still has an intended use. Would you assume the same is true with technology?
Sorry?
Like tools have an intended use, like a hammer, whatever. Were you saying that like technology should be seen like that, to have goals and aims? And Mark, do you want to give us final thought?
Technology has always taken us this far. There's a lot further we can go. The reason. It's who has it, who's in control of it, and who uses it. My field is more on the 3D printing and 2D, 3D technologies actually printed into materials and things, which is what we're going to be developing and what we're in the process of. So I can see that there's a big change coming in that sort of environment. To me, there is a huge change in what's going to go with this sort of environment as well, because it's going to break down a lot of the big business, because big business works on building something, making a lot of it, transmitting it, putting it over here, storing it, putting it into a shop and selling it. Where if these other technologies take over, it's more like go down to the end of the road, here's a blueprint, and you get it delivered the next day. That's going to take away a lot, and that's why the big companies don't want that technology out there. We've only got it because the IPs have run out not so long ago, and the whole thing is changing. So technology in its way can be brought back down, in certain respects back down to us, because we will then have more control over what we get and what we have and what we've got control of.
So you're saying that technology is becoming more democratic?
I think it will be. But
okay.
Only through the certain technologies that are changing now. The printer, like I said, is going to break down a lot of those barriers. And I think that
we shape our tools and our tools shape us back. But how can we make our tools shape us back in a way that we will evolve into something much more connected or higher?
Let's find out from Michelle. But also, can I just get a name from our new friend around the table?
Hello, I'm Wendy.
Wendy, nice to meet you, Wendy. So I'll quickly do a round of names. So this is Talkaoke, a freeform talk show where we can talk about anything. We've been talking about drones, we've been talking about VR and AR, and about the pros and cons of technology, who should have control over the progress of technology. And Mark has left us with the thought that as technology evolves to suit us and we evolve to suit it, what might the end result of that sort of process look like? And so with us we have Jose, Michelle, James, Aliska, Mikey, Batuan, Moon, Kieran, Oscar, and
Gavin.
And Gavin, welcome Gavin. I hope you caught that as well. So Michelle, technology and evolution coexisting. What's your thoughts on that?
Oh gosh, no, I was going to move.
Sorry, back on to that.
I was going to move on from that to discuss because Mark mentioned that it was that technology is speeding up the process for us, for businesses to cut out all different things so that we get next day delivery, things like that. And I wanted to move on from that to talk about automation and the fact that that there is a massive outcry at the moment that technology is going to destroy jobs. No one's going to have a job. Oh no. But that has potentially excellent ramifications. We could have a post-work world if we completely embrace technology and let everything be automated.
That sounds like a lot of fun. So exactly. No one has to work?
No one has to work. We will be free to create.
Money?
Well, universal basic income.
Let me come to Mikey here. Looked eager.
I just want to touch on what Jose was saying earlier on, that this evolution of technology has to come with it an economic evolution, but also a kind of spiritual evolution, because right now most people, they identify themselves by what they do. So if they haven't got a job, it's not just a case of where do I get my money from, but who am I as a person? Because suddenly I'm not a doctor, I'm a doctor, or I'm not a journalist, I'm not a talk show host, because there's a robot Rowan doing that for me.
We'll call it a robot.
Yeah. So who am I? What am I doing on this planet if I'm not doing this work?
But I mean, does everyone share that thought though, that we feel defined by our job? Is that our kind of?
I don't think it's just defined by your job. I think it's within the Western hemisphere, whether it's a Protestant thing, that if you're not working and you're not earning a living, which is kind of labour, then you're a parasite, I think is the idea. So and it's kind of getting ridiculous as technology will take over our jobs. It's going to be a choice eventually, in my view, whether we want to work or not a obligation. So
I mean, would anyone want to work? Would anyone around this table work without?
I'm just wondering, so I think once everything is robotic and automated and almost singular, then we don't have to go to work. We have basic income. It's great, and then we can actually develop our inner qualities. But so I'll put myself as an example. I've done hairdressing for 22 years, but I've been doing art since forever, since I was 3. So art, obviously, like my father said, this will not bring you money, and he was wrong. So, I was hard on that topic enough to start making nice things. People wanted to buy it. Now, if robots are taking over my, building my sculptures, then what am I going to develop? So it's a little bit of a danger, but in a funny.
Okay. Also, kind of curious. Like, you're an artist who made it. That's.
Yeah. I think like it's important to be.
James, do you want to give us a final thought just before you head off? Or are you coming back? Oh, you're going to come back. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. As I said earlier, I think it's important to be cautiously optimistic. So imagine a world in 100 years' time, where our AI took over and then everything is automated and nobody has to work. I think it's important to look at the definition of the work, because today, when you take the tube, for example, at the rush hour, you see really unhappy faces because people are not working in their dream jobs. And when you talk to someone, 9 out of 10 person, they always say, I'm working in this, but I always wish to be this, I always wish to be that, or I am doing this in my spare time. But imagine a world where you don't have to work to earn enough to survive, whereas there's no survival, everything is okay, and everything's automated, and you have tools. Imagine world you don't have to work, and you just have so many ideas, but you also have AI that can read your thoughts and immediately create it. And imagine a world that is with full of creatives and full of love. We will just jump into a higher space and take over and took off.
But what would be the consequence of this constant creation? We were just making stuff and.
I was going to say there's going to have to be massive rubbish dumps for all the things all this art. I mean, when I went to art school, I had the most fun time in my life, but the amount of rubbish it generated, there was a skip every week collecting it all.
Would any of it be worth anything now? Were you at school with any famous artists?
Probably.
Michelle?
I think it's also important to remember that art isn't just visual and doesn't always incorporate sculpture, and that's something that the robots won't be able to take over. They won't be able to take the soul that goes into your art, and that's what will always persist, because that is what we are. We are humans, we have souls, we create.
Is that guaranteed? Are there any contravening opinions on that? Wendy, you had your hand up a second ago.
Yeah, we're talking about the future of work, and really work is about identity and purpose, and once a lot more has been automated, we'll have a lot more time to do more purposeful things. So if purpose is around generating income to provide for our families and our whoever we care about, then our purpose may become something else. And we're seeing the emerging gig economy is just that's a little piece of that coming out already. And this thing about jobs going away from automation isn't new. Right, this has been around since the Industrial Revolution, okay? Right? And what does it do? It frees up some of the menial stuff for us to do something more purposeful and creative and cognitive with our time. So life will become about purposeful stuff and we'll be able to choose what we do with our time to be purposeful, and that will deliver our identity.
Can I ask, what would your purpose be if you could choose it then, if you weren't... I mean, I'm making assumptions.
I've already chosen my purpose, and my purpose is to have a positive impact on other people in the world.
Okay, lovely. Welcome to Talkaoke. Can I just get your name?
Christina.
Christina, welcome to Talkaoke. So this is a freeform talk show. We can talk about anything. We've been talking about drones, VR, AR, and the pros and cons of this kind of technology, where it will lead us. We're talking about kind of our co-evolution with technology and what that might sort of amount to. And there's kind of an idea that's sort of loosely floating around the table now about like what a post-work, I've forgotten the exact terminology, but like kind of a post-work economy might look like, a post-work society. Will we define our own purpose, or will we have none because we are currently our jobs, you know?
I mean, I think that's good, everyone making these positive impacts, but I don't know if we're ready for that.
No?
As a society, I don't think we're ready for that world. To me, it sounds like a dystopian nightmare, all these people going around doing purposeful things. I think they're all going to have, like, nervous breakdowns.
Well, I'm intrigued. I kind of want to elaborate on that, but let's just have a quick chat.
It's very true, because if today you base your identity for what you do, then you are in a complete illusion, you know? Identity itself is an illusion, and if we have access to psychedelic substances and makes us interconnect with a much more absolute truth, then we understand that what we do, we're not defined by what we do, but we're defined by something deeper than that. And I think, like, pretty much, like, as you said, we're not ready for full automation, and full automation today will make people focus on stuff that are not really in touch with their purpose. Maybe their purpose hasn't been connected there yet.
So you're saying we've got a bit of a way to go. Let me just come to Batman and then to...
I think like that's why like we live in an importing era, and then because I think I also do agree with you too that like we are not ready for that yet. But I think by the time that the automation is in, it starts like, working, we will have evolved in a good way so that we can adapt to it, and that's what we are doing with, for example, with Hackstock now. We are just raising awareness, and we need more events like this, and we need more virtual reality experiences. So we will evolve little by little and slowly, and then we will be ready for it eventually.
So you think just by the fact that it's coming, we'll make ourselves ready for it?
Slowly, yeah.
Okay. Michelle?
I think the concern is that it's already upon us, that automation is already taking huge swathes of jobs, and not just, blue-collar jobs, but also white-collar jobs. And that's obviously we aren't ready, and it's already happening. So that's a serious concern, because politically we aren't ready. It's not that we as individuals aren't ready, because I don't know about you, but I'm ready to spend tomorrow painting. I'm ready to spend tomorrow writing a novel rather than, I love writing about technology, but I'd love to write a novel instead. I'm ready to do that now. But politics isn't, our politicians, our government aren't ready to give us a universal basic income. They're not ready to overthrow the economy in favour of a fully automated post-work world yet, and that's what we're not ready for.
Does anyone feel like we are ready or aren't ready? So you mentioned that it's kind of already upon us. Does anyone feel threatened by this currently, right now? Like, is anyone's job at risk? Or?
I mean, obviously, universal credit is the only way you're going to be able to deal with that world.
Is it? Why is it the only way to?
Because if all the means of production are going to be in the same people's hands, so if we don't just tax those corporations and redistribute the wealth, then it's not going to work. So at the moment, that's the only system I can see where it would work. But we always seem to miss out 5 billion of the population. We're basically talking about the elite, which is the West world, and when you start applying this to India or Bangladesh, then I'm not sure we're anywhere near ready. We've got a long way to go. It's got to be the whole world or nothing, really.
Let's just hear from Mikey first. And then...
I know long-term unemployed people, and they're generally incredibly depressed, anxious people. And obviously, the current narrative about unemployment in the mainstream media is very harsh on them. So, if you've got, they are effectively the pioneers of the workless world, and then they're there's definitely bleeding edge as opposed to cutting edge, if you see what I mean. What about those people? How do we actually give them purpose and meaning? That is a real problem that's happening now.
That's what
I think I'm also like, to be personally, I'm excited about this unemployment because as human species, like we are always happy to live in our comfort zone, and we always need our get our ass kicked in order to start like thinking. So the problem is not the automation or AI. The problem is the system that we live in. Okay. So we need to change the system. And how do we do this? We do it collectively and understand. And how do we do it? We need a collective, awakening. And if this wouldn't happen unless something catastrophic happened. For example, like the Western world has been in it's in comfort zone, and it's just started, getting its ass kicked by Brexit, by Trump. And I'm so happy that these things happen because people in the Western world started questioning. I'm from Turkey, and in my country, ever since I was born, like everybody talks about politics, everybody goes to riots, everybody is going against the government. And when I first moved to Europe 8 years ago, and I had the idea that because when you live in a third world country, you're being told that, oh, the Western world is amazing, Western world is, ahead of us. But what I realized that nobody I met, nobody was questioning communism, imperialism. They didn't even know what, Hiroshima and Nagasaki meant. But my friends, or the people I met, they started questioning these things. It's been only a year that they start questioning, and then things are starting to change, like Women's March, or March against Brexit and this and that. So we do need this kind of events, and that's why I'm really excited about unemployment. Imagine millions of people becoming unemployed. They're gonna start questioning their government, and they're gonna say you know what? I'm actually not happy.
Yeah. So does anyone agree or disagree with this? I'll hear from Jose and then come to you, Kieran.
That's it, Batu. It's creating the environment for consciousness to evolve. But right now here, this is a bubble in London that just happens. This conversation happens just here. I mean, it's amazing that you guys are filming because we share with the internet, but we are not ready as a species to go, even though it's happening already and it's unstoppable. As a collective species, we're not ready yet because, think about, we are psycho-spiritual beings, right? So our mental and emotional and spiritual life is affected by our environment. So if our environment today is still making us depressed, making us PTSD and all this, then if we go full automated, then our purpose will be completely distorted. So how can we change first the environment, like this environment, and then suddenly making more collective?
Okay. I wonder if we could hear from some of our new faces. I wonder if Christina or Gavin's got any thoughts on some of the stuff we've been talking about.
I think that technology is the continuation of the mind.
Okay.
And the world is stuck in the mind anyway, and technology is a continuation. So sometimes it can actually prevent you from your spiritual development, from your connection to your higher self.
What do you mean by that? So technology can stop you from
a deeper spiritual connection to your higher self, to your higher consciousness, because for many people it can create the separate virtual reality, but it will be created by the mind, because the technology is a continuation of the mind. And it's good if it's balanced, because technology does give you loads of free time to create, but it can lock you in there, and there's two ways of transhumanism. Yeah, the one that goes with the technology, and the other one that goes into spirituality when you work with light, with energy, and they're both valuable, but most people will probably prefer technologies because it's easier.
Technology is easier than sort of making discoveries about yourself and opening up. Okay, Mikey?
I mean, I think the word spiritual is very relevant here.
Okay.
To me, I'm a total atheist. I don't like to use the word atheist because I think it's kind of negative, but to me it's about the connection of people with each other and about a kind of transcendence away from the material realm to more of a sense of connectedness with other people. And I think that is really, really important for us as a species to do.
Do you think technology will enable that, will help it, or hinder it, or what's...
It will do both.
Okay. Any thoughts on this then? Yep.
Even Terence McKenna said that we are in a point in human history where we will transcend from the material world into a spiritual world. And if we can do this collectively, we can reach levels in our civilization that are far from our imagination. We can make artwork of Earth. We can make time, instead of time is money, time is art, and we can redefine what we are as humans with the evolution of technology as well.
What might this look like? It sounds like a very lovely sort of idea, but what are we talking about in terms of what you see when you look at a city or a group of people? I mean, what's...
Well, that's it. I mean, when you look at how technology will shape us back by making it a way of... It's difficult to visualize it in a detail because of the situation we are currently, right? But if we happen to connect humanity as a collective type of spiritual transcendence, then I mean it's almost like a dreamlike reality, more dreamlike than what it is right now.
So it couples up with your sort of views on psychedelics earlier, and
but it's also like we say that the tools that we create, they're also like shaping us. So for example, like if we until the discovery of the telescope, we thought the world was flat, and once we discovered the telescope, we said like, oh, the world is round and there's space. Then we discovered microscope, and then we said there's actually a hidden dimension, hidden world there. We can't see it, but you need the microscope. And now, for example, we have virtual reality technologies, and they are making us question the simulation theory. Maybe whatever Bible, Quran, Eastern teachings were trying to say us for thousands of years, maybe now we have this technology that is making us question. When we are saying that if we have technology that is enabling us to create photorealistic realities, then there's a chance that maybe we are living in a simulation, and in maybe in 1,000 years' time we're going to create another technology that will allow us to question this reality from a different perspective, and maybe by that time we'll be in a cyber reality that is in a cyber, that is in a cyber reality. So what I'm trying to say is that actually we can use technology to make us each other question that what religions are saying, like, don't worry, don't be afraid, it's going to be all fine, trust in yourself, follow your dreams. Maybe what we call as like the dreams or like inner voice, maybe it's us from the future, the civilization that, find a technology that, tapped into time travel, and maybe it's your future self communicating with itself in the past and it's directing itself. I know it sounds crazy, but we are jacking into cyber realities in this room. So what I'm trying to say is technology is emerging into religion, and it's something new is coming up, and we will be using it in a for a spiritual awakening or whatever you want to name it. It will transcend us.
You kind of just to make sure I've got this right in my head, you're saying that there's things like telescopes let us probe the giant, microscopes let us probe the tiny, and something like virtual reality will let us probe reality itself. Mm-hmm. Kieran, what are your thoughts on that?
I wasn't going to quite follow on from that. It was sort of carrying on with the same conversation. I think that the biggest struggle going on at the moment is about who has the power, and at the moment it's fascism really, or it's going that way. So Erdogan, I can't say his name, but anyway, the president of Putin, people like that, and capitalism in general wants to keep people very busy and very poor, so they can't think and they haven't got any time to fight anything. So this country used to be very politicised in the 80s, and if the miners were on strike, then we were down there helping them. If the nurses were on strike, then the doctors were out. Now everyone is so stressed out and fucked up that they can't even think about what's going on with their neighbours. So technology, if the people here and people like this can liberate people from labour, then actually what will happen is we'll become politicised, and we may be able to take over the system in a way that makes it work for everybody. But there is a struggle, and there's a fierce fight, I think, going on for who gets it.
So you think technology will enable our politicisation?
Well, in a way, yeah. And what I've heard is lots of talk about the collective and humanity, and I think the technology is going to enable us to work together. And at the same time, there is an awakening going on where we are reclaiming our humanity. And people are understanding it's more about self and more about how do we actually connect with each other through ourselves. So we've got these two things together, right? Technology frees us up to do stuff that's more thoughtful. And at the same time, we understand and connect back to our humanity, which enables us to connect back with ourselves and drive stuff as a collective. So once you've got those two things together, what happens when lots of people get together and work towards something purposeful together? Unbelievable, incredible things. And that is where we're going.
Technology will help us work together. Let's go hear from Mikey. Then.
Well, we are in that future already. But we've got the distraction technology, which is distracting us, and that's much more powerful than technology which creates connections and creates empathy. And that's the issue right now. in the time of the greatest automation, we've got the historically lowest levels of unemployment because people are doing stupid jobs that are totally pointless.
What do you mean?
Or they're doing bollocks courses on like how to be a conformist human being. And so actually that's already happening, and that's the outcome, is not people getting together and organising, because there's this other technology in the way.
Okay.
I think the most exciting technology that we have now is the internet, and then the internet is showing us the power of collective consciousness. For example, like from Turkey, like until 2013, in Turkey there was an unrest, and people didn't know that there was a lot of people that they didn't like the government, but we didn't know that it was actually more than 0.5% of it. And then the riots started, and then people started filming and then posting stuff on the internet, and then we started seeing that actually right wing, left wing, this and that, Kurdish, Turkish, Armenian, there was a lot of people that hated the government, and they all collectively start working together and started raising their awareness. But the government also used the same technology to track down the people that they were posting stuff against them on the internet, and they started arresting them. So we have, and if you look at, for example, what started the Renaissance is the print press, and then this technology allowed the people to be able to read the Bible and start questioning the authority. And now we have the internet, and so we can use this technology to raise an awareness, or it can put us in jails and in our bubbles, like Jose said.
So kind of a little bit, Mikey was saying a little bit earlier about how technology is simultaneously good and bad. So that you're saying there's a flip side to the information sort of dissemination that we were sort of talking about a second ago.
It's a double-edged sword. And I want everyone just to kind of look right now or make an observation of the darkness that is happening right now in the world, right? And then look back in human history and look at all the crises that happened. That was darkness itself, again. But what happens here, and this is an observation of how darkness can work also as the heat of human creativity for us in moments in crisis to find a new solution. Now, this time is critical because it's the extinction of the species or the connection of all the species, which is, a profound event to experience if we experience it.
So I think like a crisis breeds innovation and takes us in interesting directions. So is that what we're in right now? Is that why technology is accelerating to kind of get us out of something? Not as sort of some were suggesting it's what caused the problems in the first place.
Is technology really accelerating? Right? Is it?
We're getting yes.
Right.
We'll hear from a yes in a second. But why do you sort of?
I don't know. It is in many, many ways. But if you were again living 100 years ago, technology would be accelerating pretty fast then as well. And if you're living 100 years before that, technology was accelerating pretty fast then. So we are in times of change, and we've always been in times of change. So how are we going to adapt to that change? We're going to make another leap, sure, but we will see.
Do you think they were having the same conversation a few hundred years ago around a wooden table with a megaphone instead of or a cone? Yeah.
Yes, they were. I mean, we've been, in one form or another, innovating with technology since the first ape picked up the first stone and hit the first, fruit with it or whatever. So, went off on a weird tangent there. But in accordance with Moore's law, things get faster and faster and faster. And we are, the first industrial revolution, massive explosion. But we're now in the fourth industrial revolution.
What were the other two?
There was, I know the third one was the internet.
Okay.
And if anyone can help me out on what the second one.
Well, hang on. Who knows all four? I mean, that might be the
industrial internet.
Industrial internet.
Industrial internet. What was it? I remember. I know.
Hang on. Let's see if Jose.
If it continues to accelerate even faster and faster, then in order for humans to catch up of how technology is evolving, then there will be a point that we will need to merge with technology.
We need to merge with technology.
More, because we're already merged.
It's kind of like what James and his cyborgs.
We are already cyborgs.
We're already.
We are.
Mikey?
Look at us.
Yeah.
The brain size of prehistoric human beings was about 15% larger than our brain size now. So technology has allowed our brains to shrink slightly. And I'm wondering if that progress will actually go on. and we will not need to think as much, as we're much more. I mean, you've got your memory device there, so you don't have to remember stuff.
So you think we'll just have sort of one of these inside our heads?
Yeah, I mean, in a way, does this acceleration and this merging with technology lead to less thinking for us to have to do?
I mean, it's commonly echoed.
It was only Neanderthal that was a larger brain. I didn't think it was the species we are, and I thought our brain had actually grown in size at one point during the agriculture when we discovered agriculture. So just put me right on that.
Good point. Let's quickly.
Now's the time I'll have to get my phone out and to get onto Wikipedia to actually get the actual
facts. Ask it
facts.
for a graph of brain sizes.
Yeah.
I'll come to Batuan in a sec.
We mustn't forget that we only use something like 10% of our brains.
Is that true?
Yes.
No, I don't think so. I don't think that's a myth. I mean, how can you measure that? Even though if we had used only 10%, we don't have a way to measure that. I mean, right now, when we go and meditate and enter into a much more quiet brainwave, then that's a much more complete understanding of how our brain is working. But that idea of 10% I think is a myth.
Well, even if it's I think that it is a small amount of our capacity, and partially because a lot of the physical makeup of the brain is sort of, it's almost like wasted space in the way that the architecture works. And I don't think that the fact that the notion that the human brain has shrunk, or whether it has or not over time, is necessarily relevant to how much we think or not. I think that our brains shrank because our craniums had to shrink because of the way that humans give birth. And
Interesting. Okay, so there's kind of more like an evolutionary pressure there that wasn't to do with tools and things.
To the gentleman's point, there's already evidence to suggest that because we Google stuff, that our capacity of retrieving information from our long-term memory is already decreasing. You know, when you go, oh, it's that, it's on the tip of my tongue, and now we go and Google it, right, we're actually losing our capacity to retrieve stuff from our brain because of technology.
I know the feeling. I have to recite like what we've been talking about throughout the show, and I know we started on something small like robots, but now I can't remember the bit in between.
This is what we mean by that we're already cyborgs, because we've already got interfaces.
So that's what Jose was saying, yeah.
So this whole idea, to bring it back to what I said earlier about neural lacing, I think on the last panel,
I heard that phrase. What did it mean?
Neural lacing is like, Elon Musk, who runs
the
Tesla.
rocket guy.
He's it's come into the news a lot recently because he's just acquired a company called Neuralink. And their idea is to create these little implants into the brain that increase its capacity for different things, basically.
I mean, that sounds good, doesn't it?
I think, I totally agree with everybody, but I think like a good example will be the Industrial Revolution. So before the Industrial Revolution, like the majority of the population, they had to go and look for food, look for clean water, this and that. But the Industrial Revolution allowed us to mass produce food and objects, so which gave us more time. So now we don't have to go and look for food, but like I bet nobody here knows how to hunt, where to find clean water, but we all know how to go to Tesco, Sainsbury's. So we lost that they call talent and that skill, but we replaced it with something else because it gave us opportunity. It gave us opportunity to explore our minds, explore this and that. So we have this thing going on now here because we don't have to go and hunt and do that. So like yes, technology now is replacing. Maybe we are losing some skills and talents, but we are replacing them with some new skills, and we're discovering more things about us.
So don't worry so much about our inability to recall facts from a long time ago.
Well, we need to worry about it. Like now, as I said, like if a catastrophic event hits London, the only people that will survive are going to be the indigenous ones. So now we're just like assuming that it's not going to happen. It's the same with the technology. We are assuming that the Google is, the technology is not going to turn against us, and then social network is going to be there, so on and so forth. But what if our cell phones stopped, working, or what if internet just decided to, stop running? We don't know what to replace it with, and it's going to take us another couple of years to, adapt to it.
Would we revert to horses? Yeah. Earlier in the conversation, Oscar was saying, like a while ago, we were transferring letters by horse. Well, would we have a horse internet? Right. Sorry,
I was just going to say that it doesn't really matter whether we remember if you came from an indigenous tribe, remember how to hunt and gather, because there's nothing to hunt and gather anymore anyway. so it's obsolete. But I don't think our memories are not being used, because I've got a really bad memory for names. So
let me get a final thought.
Every time someone tells me, "Oh, you should look at this on YouTube and you should check this out and you should check this next technology," I get home and I don't, because I haven't got a fucking clue what they said and who it was. So actually, I think most people that I meet around a slightly younger generation are carrying tons of information in their head of what's cool, really.
It's just different kind of information. Let me just get a final thought from Wendy, who looks like she's about to escape.
Reclaim our humanity. Final thought.
Reclaim our humanity. Okay. Cryptic, but I'm intrigued. Tony, do you want to come and join us? Go for it. Right, so welcome to the second session of Talkaoke. So we're talking about a lot of, as with earlier, a lot of sort of complicated subjects. Water, please, that would be great. We're sort of talking about like the next industrial revolution and all the manifestations of that, like what it would do for work, society, what it would do for ourselves as well, specifically. And Batuan's just kind of highlighted like what would happen if something switched off all of our technology. Who would be the winners in that game? Kieran suggested that it wouldn't actually be the nomadics because there's nothing left for people to hunt and gather. There's no clean water that just exists anymore, which is all a bit dystopian, but yeah, sort of a bit Mad Max style almost. Anyway, let me just introduce you to everyone. So we've got Jose, we've got Michelle, we've got Christina, we've got Aliska, Mikey, who's a chair, Batuan, Moon, Kieran, Oscar, Gavin, and this is Tony.
It's not going to affect your short-term memory. You're really good at remembering names.
No, it's one of those pressure things, though. Yeah. No, it's only a pressure thing, though, isn't it, Mikey? Like the name
can I say something? Actually, like what I've realized is that in the last couple of months, like since I use technology and I use internet a lot, I realized that like the way I use language to communicate with people has changed, and I start giving dates to people, and I start saying like, do you remember like on the 30th of August 2016 or on the 12th of September 2012? And people started telling me like, how do you remember all the dates? And then I started questioning, how do I remember it? One of the major things is the internet, because Facebook always reminds me every day. A year ago you were doing this. A year ago, 2 years ago you were doing that. And it's like even if I don't check it or I'd never share them, it stays in my subconscious mind and it affects my community. And Facebook launched it maybe like a couple of months ago, and I'm seeing the like the effects now.
What would happen if Facebook put like an incorrect or a fake memory or got the date wrong on something? Would you suddenly start remembering?
Well, they are doing it. They are doing it. Like the things that you see on Facebook, like they are not random things. And Facebook works with an artificial intelligence that knows who you are more than your partner knows you, and it based on your previous research and your interests, and it shows you things and it keeps you in your bubble, and it can also send you fake information.
Well, that's kind of what I was curious about. Yeah, what if you actually remember going to a gig that you never actually went to?
Exactly.
Just going to hear from Jose and then Kieran.
Because it's always saying I need a penis enlargement, and it's not true. So I wouldn't trust it.
But even memories are not actually accurate. They are a reconstruction of what happened. So
maybe Google's actually better than having our memories. Maybe Wendy was wrong to kind of worry about that. Actually, we should be embracing the fact that we can't remember word things.
I would argue that probably Facebook and Google and possibly some other corporations know us better than we know ourselves.
What do you mean by that, though? Like
they can predict our behaviour better. We're very optimistic, and we've got a highly inflated opinion of ourselves, whereas Google gives it to you straight, and they know that that person's going to go on a diet, but they're going to fail.
So they're kind of like that really honest friend who just doesn't know to.
Apart from the friend bit.
Okay, right. Do we not treat it like our like social media presence as a bit of a friend? Is that
I think James mentioned it to me a couple of months ago, but like I don't remember what it's called. But there is this AI that can be used against you that tracks what you like, and on a specific day, let's say we have Hackstock and you're gonna give a talk, and someone that doesn't like you or someone that want to sabotage you can use that AI that scans what you like, and it sends you based on your personality something that demotivates you.
Oh, right, to hijack your mood.
Exactly, and we get affected by the things that we see. Let's say it shows you just in the morning, just on your way to Hackstock, it shows you a picture of your ex really happy on a holiday, and you're like, wow, and then it just starts just sabotages your mind. And what if we create an AI that actually it's able to create an image of your ex. So it just creates a fake memory. And like Jose said, like memories are actually being shaped. When you remember, the memories that you remember are not actually the memories like of the event that happened. You remember the memories. It's like you always remember things like how you remembered last time. So they're always changing.
So every time you remember something, you remember the previous time you remembered it.
Exactly. So
like
like
a copy of a copy of a copy.
Exactly. So the more you're being shown, let's say if Facebook creates a picture of my ex with someone, but that's not real, but it's just fake thing. But the more it shows me, the more it will affect me in my subconscious mind. Even if I know that it's fake, but it will affect me.
It's like almost like a paranoia AI, or
it is paranoid. It is schizophrenic because if Google knows the algorithm of what we will want tomorrow, and then suddenly we incorporate BCI interlink.
BCI.
What is it? Neuralink.
Neural lacing.
The brain-computer interface.
Neural lacing. Then this is gonna become very, very scary because if this technology is controlled by big industries, then we're losing something very, very, very important here.
Which brings us back to who holds the power and who should hold the power and how we grab that power.
I think that is an important question, and we haven't actually really gone into the who yet. And we've all sort of agreed, maybe not corporations, but what about more specifically?
On a positive note, I'm already having this program of memory of the memory, but it's all fake. So this morning, Brad Pitt with Angelina Jolie, they're still together in my world. They say, "Hey, Oscar, you're going to Hackstock. Good luck. Have a beautiful conversation with these lovely people." And I felt so uplifted coming here. So. On this positive note, I'll be back. So.
Okay, is that your final thought, or would you like to give us a quick final thought?
I'll come back.
You'll come back.
Like 10
Brilliant.
minutes.
Okay, Mikey. Yes. Who should have the power? Who should hold the keys?
I mean, that's the thing is that we think it's bad that a big corporation's got the power. Someone like Google or Facebook. If we individually had the power, would we, knowing what we know about ourselves, would we actually do a better job if we were in charge?
I don't know. Perhaps we should make a pizza and find out.
Well, I think there's an observation which we already experienced, but I think it's properly scientifically been looked at, which is that we are rose-tinted. That when we look back in memory, we tend to sort of filter out the stuff that we didn't enjoy and remember something good. And that's the reason why we go on holiday with a friend that we couldn't bear 2 years ago, because we've forgotten how awful it was, but we do it again and again and again. It's human nature to do that. So in a way, Google's just doing that for us, I think.
But is it a better alternative than having a government in charge? Or
but that's the scary thing. Like for example, in near future, you're not gonna choose, for example, your holiday friends or like your partner. Internet or like the AI will choose, and it will just based on your online profile, it will tell like, oh, this person fits you well, this person fits you perfectly, but you're going to be like, but I don't have any feelings for this person, but the AI will be like, no, you should go for this person.
So what's the app? Like you get your phone out and suddenly it goes and Tinder just automatically...
We already have that app. It's just going to get better and better because we just, we keep uploading stuff to the internet, we're just feeding it.
Feeding it. I like that, almost like animal metaphor. Just Gavin.
Just this idea that Google kind of knows us better than we do, or that the sort of AI is kind of more powerful than we are, only really works if it's all based on our past choices. That all our decisions that we've made in the past are therefore the ones that we'll kind of replicate in the future, which isn't necessarily always the case. I mean, I suppose that it's about kind of us grabbing the power back for ourselves, like getting some kind of consciousness over those decisions, that actually in a moment, any given moment, we'll make a decision that's unique and that's not based on our past conditioning and our past choices. This idea of conditioning and this kind of thing that we automatically would make.
A little bit lost. What do you mean exactly? So currently AI is looking at what we have done, but you think it could look at what we haven't done, or what's what?
Well, it's based. Those algorithms are all based on decisions that we've made in the past.
Well, how could they be based on ones we haven't made yet?
That's what I'm saying.
Well,
that's what I'm saying. But the fact that we haven't made them yet, the idea that in any unique present moment we have a choice, and that's not based necessarily on all the choices that we've made in the past.
Okay. So you're saying we're more than the sum of our memories, effectively, but it doesn't work.
Also,
like that.
It's not creative, it's not deliberative, it's not adding anything new into the mix. It's just saying that went like that, so we'll do it like that again, and that worked.
Is that definitely the case?
Well, maybe, I don't know. I mean, I went to an event in November and I think you were there as well, about computer creativity and computers actually starting to be creative as well and starting to generate new possibilities as well. I mean, my question was actually something else, which is like,
far away.
If Google doesn't have the power, and if governments don't have the power, if we do have the power, and this is just a totally open question, what would the world look like if we did have the power and we could make all these decisions all the time about, you know, where that technology goes? What would it actually look like? What would it be? Could it actually work?
Who wants to sort of like chime in on that? What would your world be like if you had the power, not Google?
No, I just wanted to say something. Like, you are talking a lot about like our power and that the government is the wrong one, but actually we are many times voting the government who actually voted for Brexit people. So I just would like to say that it's like you are talking about having a power ourselves, but do you really believe all the people? I think it's about who has the power and who should be voted to have the power. I just don't agree with all of you're saying about that we have to be the ones who decides and who have the power, because anyway we are influenced by the modern technologies, by like Facebook or by social media, and actually the social media is shaped by maybe the government who is in the power, and then you know, our ideas are not are very influenced by that as well. So it depends on who is in the power and where we are looking, and how we react to it, and how we accept all these informations from modern technologies to interact with them and to maybe create our own ideas. So here we are talking as a group of maybe really interested and really, you know, people who wants to get some informations done, but not all the people I know wants to have the same. They sometimes have the really basic maybe life and basic you know, informations coming to them. So I don't feel that I would like to have these people have the power.
You're kind of worried that not everyone's view would be constructive in a way. Michelle, it looks like you're about to try and run away, so do you want to give us a final thought, seeing as you brought us to this place?
I suppose what you're saying is about democracy, really. Is democracy really working? And I'd like to leave it with, do we actually have a democracy?
Okay, do we have democracy, not just is it working, but do we even have it?
Yeah.
So, let me just get our new friend at the table. What's your name?
Masahiro Kahata.
Pardon me?
Masahiro Kahata. Masahiro.
Masahiro.
Yeah.
Masahiro. Good to meet you. I'm Rowan. This is Talkaoke, a talk show where we can talk about anything. And we've got Tony, Jose, Christina, Aliska, Mikey, Batuan, Moon, and Kieran. You got something to add? Time?
No, what's your name?
What's my name? Rowan. That's it. That's the first thing I said. Yeah, I said my name's Rowan. Welcome to Talkaoke. Anyway, do we? We're talking about democracy in a changing world of technology and progress, and you know, we're talking about who will have the power over technology in the future. Is it going to be companies? Is it going to be governments? And then what kind of sort of government and structure do we want? And Michelle, who kind of was a part of how we ended up at that conversation, pitched the idea that we don't have a democracy. So I'm just going to kind of get answer some questions. Christine, you haven't sort of spoken much, and you just had your hand up. I'll come to Batuan afterwards.
You know, as I said before, that the technology and the computerization is a continuation of the mind. And you know, eventually, I think that eventually none of the governments or corporations will have the power over it, because now all the computers, they know they're stronger and they're becoming more powerful than we are. You know, and our mind is quite limited. And you know, so it's going to get stronger. So I think actually the computers will have more power than any of us, and they will have the control of our realities.
So it will actually, they'll take their own control.
Yeah, they will take over.
So it won't even be a case of who is pulling the reins. They'll be self-governing, self-guiding, whatever.
Yeah. Because like, you know, this is a consciousness like artificial intelligence, you know, and they, like, you know, because the reality is what you believe in, you know, and they can, you know, put their reality on people who are not awakened, people who want to have their lives, you know, just easier, and who just have very basic material goals in their lives. It's very easy.
So computers can exploit our kind of like fickle, shallow natures in a way.
I think like I want to say two things. I want to first touch on the previous topic, the democracy. The thing about democracy is that yes, the idea is that the people have the power and they control, but we do not live in a democratic society. We live in the illusion of democracy. And a good example of, like, you know, when Brexit happened, the day after, the thing that was Google in like the most in Britain was, what is EU? you. So like that, it's quite funny, yeah. So like it just shows that democracy is not working, and not because of the system. It's because people are not aware of the art of voting and art of doing research. And governments are so they are aware of this, and they're using it against us. And they say that you have the right to vote, but like they don't allow majority of the population to question, and that includes us as well, because we are in, like Jose said, we're in the bubble, in our bubble, and Brexit and Trump happened, and nobody was expecting it. But it's because nobody that is like against Trump and Brexit had a friend that was pro-Brexit and pro-Trump on their Facebook, so they didn't see it was coming. And then think about the technology in future. For example, now augmented reality technologies are allowing us to actually modify our reality. So if I didn't like it, I could just delete you from my reality. Or imagine this, and have it connected to an artificial intelligence like Google and Facebook, that they know you more than you know yourself.
Curates your friend list for
and
you.
look at what Facebook did. They bought Oculus Rift in 2012, and they're working on, Google is working on this kind of technology. So soon they will start modifying our reality. So if imagine a government that works with these companies. So let's say if they don't want immigrants in your country, they will just put immigrant holograms around you. Holograms that immigrants beating the white man. So you will vote the government that is against the immigrants.
Kind of like an extreme version of what the tabloids already do, Mikey.
I thought what they'd do is, what I thought you were going with this is that when you'd look, it would just delete the immigrants from your field of view. So you just wouldn't, if there was an immigrant walking down the street, you just wouldn't see that person, because they're completely, you just see the British people, delete homeless people. I went to a talk a couple of weeks ago at the Finnish Institute, and it was all about direct democracy, how we can take the power back and give everyone a voice. Okay. Then a guy came in and talked who worked for Cambridge Analytica, or actually SCL, which is a company that runs the sort of main company, and he said, we've got all these systems, we know how to tell people the right information, we know how to psychologically track people, we buy the data from Facebook, so this is how we do it, and we can just we can manipulate the result. Nobody in that direct democracy seminar even had any questions for him. They just almost ignored him. They completely ignored the information that he had to give, because it didn't fit with their idea about what direct democracy. It was like almost he was talking a different language to all the sort of people that wanted to have, people voting online and people, contributing to a kind of collective civil, this kind of utopia that they were talking about. And then there's a guy coming on telling everyone how to game the system. They just didn't deal with him at all. And that's, I think, the problem, is that we are too techno-optimistic and we don't see the dark side of the technology.
So despite everything that's kind of like going around in these kind of conversations, Mishato?
In 1967 was a human being. Human being.
A human what, sorry?
Yeah. So starting in America, San Francisco. So I came from New York.
Yep.
And Berlin. But anyway, so like LSD getting illegal happened 50 years ago in America.
Yeah.
So and also in New York, starting try to open UFO information in New York side. So New York and San Francisco are a little bit different situation at the time, 50 years ago. But more people recently tried to UFO related information anyway in America. So also here too, but not many from Berlin. And many people don't know about like teleportation technology or time travel technology. Already the CIA and DARPA are using over 40 years ago.
But is anyone else aware of this kind of technology? Yeah. So let me just get it straight. You're saying there was suppression of technology from 50 years ago.
So especially
we haven't seen that technology now.
Especially related time travel and teleportation technology. to communicate.
So what would happen if we had these technologies, you mean?
That has been replicated at the conversation because psilocybin and LSD is actually now being used again. There's lots of ayahuasca, and they're using psilocybin on cancer patients. We are now reclaiming that psychedelic technology. So yeah, it is coming back.
So it's all coming back.
And like I work with the scientists from the Imperial College of London, and I'm in the study of scanning brains active under the influence of DMT.
Will we see you on Sunday?
Oh, okay, great. Well, these things, like the indigenous people have been using these medicines for thousands of years, and people, since ever the 60s, and people start using LSD and mushrooms, and people actually start, a lot of people report good things, revelations, change, question, but we live in a society that needs scientific proof, and now we're in the third psychedelic renaissance going on, and it's working with the science, and Imperial College's study with LSD show that LSD is actually increasing the brain's activity of different parts, and it is good for creativity. And a lot of artists have been, reporting this anyway. And they also prove that psilocybin is good for treating depression. And I actually made that work there with Albert Hofmann, who discovered LSD. For example, Francis Crick, who discovered DNX double helix, he admitted later in early 2000s that he was under the influence of LSD. Or Timothy Leary, it started an amazing the movement that we are continuing now. And Steve Jobs also used this. Oh, okay. And Aldous Huxley wrote the book Doors of Perception. But there is still taboo around these substances, and it's also important to remember. For example, I love Timothy Leary, but I don't agree with his idea that he solved this as the problem solvers. No, like Jose said in his previous talk, they're actually the tools, and they need we need to learn from them and then apply it to our reality.
So much like with technology, psychedelics are a tool to achieve something and not the end itself. I'm curious how that does it also tie in with the idea with politics as well. I mean, it felt like you were sort of touching on social ideas. Does it tie in with politics about how sort of Mikey was talking about earlier? Would it alter people's...
Of this psychedelics and politics?
Yeah, of course. Is there a link there? Or?
Yeah, of course there's.
It's all politics.
Yeah. I mean, you don't. We live in you don't Terence McKenna says citizens don't take psychedelics because citizens behave. And what is behaving? It's the culture is not your friend. He also says, and that culture also tells you education system, and they all shape your mind, shape your reality. And once you take psychedelics, they are boundary dissolvers, and they just show another reality, and they show you reality and the society you live in from a different perspective. Once you have a breakthrough, you come back and you start questioning everything. You start questioning even your parents, yourself, and once you get into that mindset, it's almost impossible to go back. And it's good to stay sane, question everything, but also if you question too much, you will go in too far.
Yeah, but I like the sentiment though. Stay sane by questioning everything. Be unsane.
I agree with you, Batu, because I feel that in this day and age, it is essential for each human to have a mystical experience, but also a scientific analysis of reality. If science today has become sort of an approach of how to measure everything or how to prove everything, then also we have to look at the spiritual dimension. We need to have the mystical experience in order for us to realize that there is much more than this material world.
No, because I think that there's a science, there's a quantum science, yeah? Because science is still operating in, using the tools that cannot measure the other dimensions. When you go into psychedelics, or if you go into different dimensions, actually if you go really far beyond what you can say, it cannot be measured. But the science is still using very old tools. So how do you find this, this mixture with the quantum science, the dimensions, because you cannot put into words, it cannot be said,
what do you mean by
expressed.
you sort of use words like quantum science and dimensions there? What do you mean it can't?
Well, exactly. When you when you go beyond, because here in this reality we've got 5 senses. Yeah, that's how we operate. That's how all the technology. That's what technology is based on. Yeah, we see, we hear, we perceive. But if you go beyond, if you go into the plant medicine, if you go into very spiritual deep work, you go beyond this reality. And this reality, the other realities, they are not describable.
But isn't that what technology does? Measuring like infrared or anything like that?
No, well, that's the whole thing. There's like, we have like 5 sensors we're using, but there are over 200,000 sensors that people not even aware of, sense of no time, no dimension. And how does the science can describe it?
I think that's fascinating, because if you look at the shaman and if you look at the physicist, they are completely opposite. But they arrive at the same conclusion, one by looking within and one by looking to the external world, right? If quantum physicists are starting to question the nature of reality because quantum physics is fucking mad and confusing, it's beautiful, because at the end of the day, if the reductionist point of view of science can change into something more spiritual and incorporate the shamanic ancestral wisdom, then we can enter into a synergy of, interconnectedness.
Mikey,
apparently if you speak to the shamans in Peru, they are very much aware of the current developments in science. They're talking about it all the time. And I just wanted to... What you were saying made me think about the Nazca lines, which were discovered by kind of the West by looking from an aeroplane. And they're supposedly for shamans to be able to navigate when they're astrally flying. So is that Western way of actually physically flying a kind of way of actually catching up with that shamanic astral flight? I don't know. I'm just saying that's what it made me think of. That there is a dimension there that we didn't understand, but the shamans did.
Kieran?
I would say the big thing that the shamans would probably say is that they're using nature and they're not destroying it. We're creating technology which is just creating more and more crap, and it's going to kill us because of the pollution. It seems to just be ignored all the time. Like you're talking about your skip and art. I mean, that's all in landfill now. That's poisoning our rivers. It's not your fault. You're very creative, Mikey, but... So I do worry that why are we trying to, if we've got a natural way of doing it, why are we trying to use an electronic way of doing it? I think it's a worrying thing. It's my final thought, by the way. So
I was about to ask actually. Maybe we should. Speaking of astral planes, perhaps it's time for this astral plane to fly. What's our final round of thoughts?
I think everyone should, in a controlled and safe environment, try some psychedelics and then re-look at this whole subject again.
Be scientific about it. Moon, what's your final thought for us?
Final thought. I guess together towards utopia.
Final thoughts?
Final thoughts.
I would say turn on, boot up, and check in, and question everything while you're enjoying your martini. So just stay and enjoy the moment. You don't even know if it exists or not, but since you're here, question everything, and don't be think locally, but work locally, think globally. Don't be selfish, and just care about each other. You don't know if I don't know if you exist or somebody else in India that exists, but it's good to think about each other. Yeah.
I mean, what I like about Hackstock is actually that it's also critical of VR technology and critical of cyberdelics itself. That we're talking about the opportunities and the possibilities, but it's really important to see the other side of that as well, and see what the nightmares of the future are as well as the dreams.
Look at both sides. Aliska?
Think about technologies and use them for your own good and for extension of good things.
Be positive with technology, okay? Christina?
Thank you. I think it's just meeting people, seeing what's there, and exchange the opinions, and just having a really nice time.
Yeah, kind of like this. Oscar, we're just doing final thoughts.
Yeah, I just joined in. So I think the bottom line is we all want to be happy, and that's why we try. No, I think we do want to be happy. We want to be loved. We all want to be loved, and love will bring happiness. Therefore, we continue creating new technologies to make us happy, and therefore, it's maybe a substitute for love.
Interesting. All right. Tony, what's the final thought from you?
I think for a lot of people, there is no safe environment for psychedelics. For some people, they just wouldn't go there. So therefore, technology, cyberdelics, there's an opportunity there to change the perspectives of people who perhaps wouldn't otherwise have more than just kind of one view.
Mr. Hato, let's see if we've got a final thought for us. Do you have a final thought of the conversation?
So, not like a final thought, but so big problem is so many technology controlled by the NASA and all government agency. So especially related colony. So they are making colony outside of this planet many years. So that's why they try to hide many technology, including time travel and teleportation technology. So those are big problems. Keep considering.
So use technology to expand our horizons. Okay, one very last final thought, but then we'll,
okay. So I just wanted to touch on what Jose and Christina said about the psychedelics and the technology that that natural technology that what shamans have been talking. So shamans have been talking for thousands of years of in getting in touch with spirits or aliens or whatever. And there's this common thing that, for example, with people that they experience a DMT, like mine said. A lot of people, millions of people from around the world, they report getting in touch with high, intelligent beings, and they always talk about similar intelligent beings. So if it was just a couple of people talking about this, it will be called hallucination. But we have millions of people reporting. So there is something there. So what we can do with, for example, with science, instead of looking at alien life form in the space or in deep sea, what we could do is give DMT to someone and have scan their brain, and I think by that time we will have decoded the imagination and these worlds, and create an artificial intelligence that scans person's experience and recreates it in virtual reality, and you put shamans, scientists and philosophers in that virtual reality, and here you go, you have an alien contact or whatever you want to name it, and we can study these worlds by using technology, both natural technology and analog or whatever, this kind of technologies.
It's kind of like tapping into dreams in a way. I think that could be a laugh. Anyway, thank you for all of your thoughts. This has been Talkaoke. I've been your host, Rowan. Enjoy the rest of the day. All right, we'll catch you again soon. We'll get this conversation started again soon.
interesting new construction. Very good sound.
So thanks guys, great performance, and you're holding up this technology, which I do think we want to ask you about in a second. This cutting edge technology that you've got here. But first of all, let's just get some names. So can you just tell us your name?
I'm Harald Grosskopf from Germany. I'm an electronic musician since the early 70s.
Okay.
And my name is Eberhard Kranemann. I'm one of the founder of Krautwerk.
Okay.
And I'm playing music since 60 years.
Okay.
I'm just since 55 years.
Okay. Okay, you've got some catching up to do. Obviously, that's going to take years, so we can't get into that right now. Let's just find out. You can come and have a seat on the table if you've got some questions to ask these guys, or if you want to, maybe the conversation will spin in a different direction. We don't know. So my name's Mikey, first of all, and who else have we got around the table? What's your name?
Hi, I'm Matthew Emmett.
Yeah.
I'm John.
Yeah.
Marshall.
Oscar.
And come and sit down, come and come. It's not often that you get to sit down and have a conversation with one of the founding members of Kraftwerk. So we're quite privileged here. Do come and sit down and ask some questions if you've got. Has anyone got a question? Come and have a sit. Has anyone got anything? Yeah, John.
You said a really interesting comment to me earlier about the stylophone and the fact that it was. Most people think the first song that was played was Space Oddity with David Bowie,
right?
But that's actually not true, is it?
Okay, so tell us a little bit about the stylophone.
Yes, I know the stylophone maybe since 40 or 50 years, because Kraftwerk was the first band who played with this. And after Kraftwerk, there was a not so important English musician. His name is David Bowie. He copied this style and tried to make a stylophone too, but it was not so good. Kraftwerk is better.
Okay, all right. Well, I don't think anyone's going to dispute that, but I guess we're trying to find out where the idea comes from. We've got a new face at the table. What's your name?
I'm Rose.
Rose,
Hi.
have you got a question? Have you got a...
I've missed the first bit, so you're probably talking about Kraftwerk there.
Well, no, we haven't really said anything yet. We've mentioned this device, the stylophone, and maybe we can find out a bit more about it. And it's a
the origin and how you used it originally.
Okay. So how did the device come about? Can you say a little bit about it?
I just heard about it. I never used it until this moment here.
Okay, so
but he did, in the late 60s or early 70s. And but I knew the instrument, but this is now a new outcome. It was a new product, but it's based on the original stylophone from 1968.
Okay, can you tell us about how it actually came about and how?
I used it maybe 1970 or 71. This is a long time ago.
Yeah.
But it was the first model. But this is a follower model, and this one is much better. The sound is more intensive. You can make more changes. In reality, this is I can say, something like a children's instrument. Even if it is a primitive instrument, you can make wonderful, easy sounds with it. You have heard it, it's very good sounds coming out.
Okay. More people around the table? Yep.
So we've been speaking about technology, obviously. Would you wish to be born 20 or 30 years later and use the, available gadgets or software, or you would rather, you happy with what you did with the old stuff?
Before coming to you, I'm going to ask Oscar the same question to himself. Would you rather be born 30 years later? I don't know how old you are.
I would rather be born 30 years ago,
Really?
Well,
30 years before?
No, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So 67 years ago.
Okay, you would rather have been born 67, so you would rather have been born earlier. Let's go around the table with this one. Would you rather be born 30 years later, 30 years earlier, 100 years later, 100 years earlier?
I'm happy with where I am.
Okay. And
10 years later.
Okay, 10 years.
Interesting question. I'm not sure. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe
say 20 years earlier.
Okay.
I think, yeah, either 20 later or earlier.
Okay. Either, but not the
Yeah.
current
Yeah.
situation.
I'm fine with my age, and it was okay. Born in 1949, you know.
Okay.
I am 72 years old. I have been born in 1945. So I'm a very old man, but I'm very young.
Okay. Would you rather have been born now and live your life and be old in the 2100s?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
No, I'm happy.
Yeah.
Where I am. That's cool.
Yeah, I'll stick where I am. I'm fine.
Could I keep my memory?
Oh, well, so you want to be born
Yeah.
later and also be born now? You want a bit of both in a way?
Yeah, I would like to born like 10 years ago, and then I could come up with like big things like Facebook.
Oh, I see. So you would like to be born. You would like to be born earlier, but actually then be the inventor of all the things that you knew about in the future. Okay, that makes sense. I would say yeah, but yeah, I was thinking a bit of both. Be born in the past and in the future.
I mean, every time has its.
Oops, sorry.
Has its nice parts and bad parts, you know. And we used the technology when we started making music. In the early 70s, synthesizers just appeared, and it had incredible magic, you know. And from nowadays point, it was very primitive, you know. But we had to handle it, and in those times, it was the future, you know. Of course, you have much more possibilities today, but you have the problem of making a choice, you know.
Yeah. Okay. So every technology's got the excitement of just arriving, but with it is all the choices and all the difficulties rolled into it as well. Yeah.
I have an idea. Here is a young man, a very young man, Englishman from Plymouth, and he's a scientist of future. He's a
futurologist.
Future scientist of video artist and sound artist.
Yeah.
Maybe he can explain something.
Oh, thank you. Put me on the spot.
Okay. Yes. Promotion for you.
I think today people are more precious about the technology, and therefore they're less likely to be experimental with it.
Right.
But a few years ago, I think people were much more rigorous. And
What do you mean
critical.
precious? They're precious about technology.
Less willing to break it and rewire it and hack about with it.
Okay.
So I think today, because it's more expensive,
Right.
and
So people are not willing to say break open their iPhone.
I think people do, but I think it's less of an invitation to really kind of explore the limits of the technology. And people aren't critically challenging or questioning the technology either. They're just giving it and kind of pass it on. And
okay.
That's what I would say.
Sorry, what's your name again?
It's Matthew.
Do people agree with what Matthew's saying? Are people less critical, more precious?
I mean, there's the whole maker culture movement, isn't there? And there is a sort of making thing going on as well. And I think that technology is quite cheap.
Yeah.
I think, you know, hacking, like you say, I don't think that's completely the case.
So you're seeing a different side of it. People are fiddling around with stuff a bit more. Are people less critical, more precious?
Yes, I think they're less precious about the technology they have right now, because, for instance, with the smartphones, you get the new one every year, every 2 years. If it breaks, you know, well, you maybe repair it, not yourself though, but basically so available and cheaper actually. So on the contrary, what you said, I dare
You
to
think people
disagree.
are less precious?
Yes.
But I mean, I think what you want to see, what implicit in what you're saying is that you want to see people like levering open the technology and rewiring it. Is it possible now with these micro devices, these tiny little things?
Are we talking about hardware or software? Because I mean, people are developing apps and constantly pushing the boundaries there. So the physical hardware can be evolve and changed as people's technological needs. You know, and people are pushing the boundaries mostly with software and with apps. I mean, and that's really where the interesting development is, and it's not necessarily a physical piece of hardware that's getting moved around.
Go on, what are you going to say, Matthew?
I think the access to this technology has become much more open and accessible, but I think less original with the experimentation, therefore.
Cool.
But I think the stuff like the Arduino culture and the MakerBots, that's kind of exciting, but I haven't seen anything subversively challenging.
Why do you think that's happening?
Well, that's a bigger question.
Okay. Does anyone else want to answer it? If they agree with what Matthew's saying, if people are not being subversive, why?
Is it that people are being too safe because of commercial pressure and things like that? Like, people think that capitalism innovates, but it kind of slaps labels on things. It doesn't really innovate. Is it that universities are being squeezed and things and aren't pushing out new products that do new, incredible, amazing things?
I mean, do you think that the culture we're in now is less subversive than perhaps in the 60s or 70s?
I'm a man of the 60s. I began to make this experimental music with Krautwerk in 1967. This was a very, very wild time. From 67, maybe 10 years. Very intensive. A lot of drugs, alcohol, and boys and girls naked together, making all these wonderful things. Now, it is boring, nothing happens, and it is all commercial, and all people looking television hear commercial music. And 50 years ago, it was only revolution. In Germany, we had a cultural revolution. I think at this time in England there were Beatles and Rolling Stones, and they all said, it was okay, but it was no revolution. It was commercial. And in Germany, it was not commercial. It was it was against everything. It was a fight against everything. We said shit to everything, and wham, wham, wham. Wow. Yes.
Okay.
And now nothing. Only commercial things.
What were you going to say, Harald?
I mean, yes, I think it was more, especially in Germany, because our parents were Nazis most of the time. His parents, we were just talking about on the way here, were involved in the building of the V1 rocket which bombed London, and they never, in the family, they never spoke about it. He just found out that they must have been involved. My father was a Nazi party member, and we had these fights, and there was a big split in the generation. So our rebellion was everything from the past was fuck it, even the good German traditions, we didn't want to have anything to do with it. That's why we were able to have a field of unknown, unused field of creativity. That's and we created Krautrock. Krautrock was a bad word from the English music press, because crowds and stuff, and in the beginning nobody, we are no crowd rockers, and this now is a term of cult, which we like and we like to use, But it was a rebellion that maybe because of Trump, the Brexit, and all these right-wing tendencies. In tomorrow we see whether Europe will fall apart, and because of France, we will see that, and I can see dark clouds.
But do we need that darkness in order to have this spirit of revolution? Can we have that spirit of the 60s, of this kind of like rejection of all the bullshit without? Do we have to have the pain of war and darkness to have that?
No, we don't have to have it. It happens, and we will see. And hopefully it doesn't happen, because creativity can be done under every circumstances. But from our experience in the past, usually a dark historical situation puts out a lot of art,
Right.
The 20s after the World War I, and hopefully it never will be repeated. History most of the time will be repeated in the second time as a fake, or as a, how to say that?
A farce.
Yeah, a farce. Yeah.
Okay. Where do we want to go with this? What do we want to talk about? More questions about the music? You want to talk about revolution?
Well, I think the revolution will happen because, with globalization, there is a right-wing thing to it and the populism, but also, the left and the creative kind of in terms of austerity and not having access to things because you don't have the money. So then you come up with more creative solutions. And I think things, I mean, that's the way communication goes, doesn't it? It starts small, goes gigantic. You had broadcasters, and now, you've got like millions of channels. Radio went the same way. You got internet radio. And I think like with apps and things like that, I mean, using the person more instead of the technology.
We could be on the verge of a new era of creativity.
We could, but I think the problem is that in previous times when you get this polarization and you get this rebellion, we haven't had, as we were saying earlier, everybody's so dulled down and everything's so commercial and everybody is so caught up. There's so much social media and so much information technology out there. People's minds are overwhelmed by it and people just switch off to it. So when things that are serious and really important, which polarize and unite people in rebellion or in some sort of action, happen at the moment, I think that's not going to happen because this generation are so used to seeing vanilla minutiae every day, and they just don't get it. They don't understand, and they're not going to.
So it's a vanilla generation.
Absolutely.
Sorry
to say it.
Is it a vanilla generation that are we going to be too distracted? This is what we were talking about earlier on. Too distracted to actually be creative and to connect.
I mean, I do kind of agree, but I think what you said applies to the mainstream, because actually I think there's an immense amount of creativity in young people, but it doesn't make it because of the commercial system on top of the art world.
The vanilla.
And but the kind of problem is that it's not that it's not there, it's that it's not given a voice. And I think if a generation is criticised, those voices are going to be diminished even further, because people are just going to switch off to all forms of creativity from young people.
So it's going to be on the fringes. Just want to say to those people, come and pull your chair closer, and those people standing up, grab a chair, come in and get involved in this. There's another chair over there.
I think what it needs is politicians that decide, when we. The political side of technology needs such socialization, and this is you have a lack of socialization, and the problem will be that this will separate rich and poor more and more if the society don't decide that we need socialism in technology.
So actually, society's got to decide that this technology has to be given to more people, and this technology needs to be distributed.
I was going to say, the technology is interesting, but it's what you do with the technology. It's only a tool. So I think what you were saying about the experimentation, the filters kind of blocking that, it comes back to that kind of criticality about what you do with it as a tool to express and articulate ideas. And people are becoming so immune to so much noise, it's a matter of trying to cut through that with some sort of something to say that's interesting.
Okay, I mean, is the problem that the technology, that people are not experimenting with technology, or is the problem that people are not noticing that experimentation that's happening on a very small scale and it's not being seen by the wider community? A bit of both, okay. So do people agree with this? Is there a way to communicate the experimentation, to get people experimenting more? How do we do it? How do we foster this culture of experimentation?
Events like this. More events like this.
Okay.
Stuff that.
It's one for Tony?
Yeah, it's about inspiring people, and I guess that's what artists do. And then if artists experiment with technology in such a way that then the viewer of the art can actually be involved with it, so it's like a sort of shared experimentation, then that can only inspire more and more people, and kind of the message gets out there, as it were.
Any good art engages people and sparks something in them. So anything that sparks an interest and a creative output from somebody else or an emotion is a positive thing.
I mean, do you agree with that? Is there events like this that actually?
Yeah, of course I do, Mikey. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so more events like this. Is it? Do we know what we've got here? That it is a kind of a potential kind of influencer? Do people see this event in this way? Yeah.
I think this is good what you are doing now here. This is very, very good, because some minutes before I said, oh, it is everything is now too commercial. No one is experimenting with new things, and in this place new things are happening because you are using the new technology, not only commercial, and this is very good. You make experiments with new technology. This is the same thing is Matthew Emmett is doing, and the same thing are we doing. This is very good that we come together. German people, English people, people from the whole world come together to work in new ideas with new technology. And this is a good test bed. I don't know whether it will be a success.
Okay, so I mean, I think everyone would agree we've got to come together. We've got to experiment and share our ideas and make that happen. And it can't be commercial. Or does that? I mean, do people agree with that? Why does commerce actually stop that experimentation happening? Does it actually create this vanilla culture that you were talking about?
Yeah, I think there's a bit of a monopoly and there's a bit of a greed out there. There's people always want something for themselves, and events like this are about giving back and for everybody to collaborate. And there's an awful lot of, I'm going to be cynical. There's a lot of projects where it's all about the money and about what's in it for me, and there's a lot of that, and there's not in the wider social aspect of what's in it for everybody, or what's in it and how can we help each other. So it's part of that whole self-centered culture.
That's the issue with the commercial side. It's too selfish. It's too much about greed and not about how can we help the wider world.
And yeah, that's sort of giving me an idea. It's like, it's because of the sort of vanilla mainstream culture, is there a way of incentivizing not artists or funding bodies or anything, but the consumers to actually do more exploring? Because if rather than click on the top 10 YouTube links, they actually bothered going a few links down, they might find the stuff that is a bit more experimental and interesting. But how do you incentivize people to navigate and explore and not just take the top level of things when that's where the money goes? I mean,
all right. How do you incentivize the consumer to explore more? Tony, you were going to say something then?
It's a difficult one with this commerce situation. Obviously, commerce facilitates a lot. Money enables things. I mean, I've been organising these Kinetica events for 10 years, which has basically been artists experimenting with technology. That's exhibitions, events, performances, and so on. Yeah, we've kind of done that on a very kind of non-commercial basis, but that's obviously very difficult. But yes,
So you need to actually make money to make that.
The money has to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
But of course, I mean, we have kind of wrestled with this a bit because we need sponsorship, we need money from somewhere, but then often the brand or the company wants to kind of have their sort of input, maybe that even in terms of actually seeping into the artwork that's produced and so on. So there's kind of a difficulty there clearly that I don't really know what the answer is.
So you're kind of in a way guiding a tightrope between getting these companies in and getting them to actually make it happen, and actually not making it so. Oh, it's Vodafone Kinetica or something like that, or can you?
Exactly. I mean, we haven't done that at all. But then at the same time, we maybe haven't done as much as we could have done if we'd had that kind of backing and that kind of sponsorship and so on. So, but then it wouldn't be the same thing, would it? And that's not really what we're about. So.
There is a very fine line in what he's saying. So selling yourself or dying poor, and never showing yourself to the world. So it's a fine line as an artist or someone who organizes.
I think everyone can relate to that. That sort of like, there's the people with the money that want to make money. They want to use you, and you've got to use them. And then there's what you actually want to do in this kind of, this vision of the world where everything's done under artistic values. And I think certainly there's a kind of middle line, or there's a path that you take between those two competing. I think everyone can relate to that around the table, probably.
I don't know who said it. If you are commercially successful, some artist said it, you got to think about what you have done wrong.
Okay. All right. Well, but probably doesn't apply to any of us here. Any commercially successful people around the table? Okay. We're all doing it right. Give ourselves a round of applause. I never realised before how much we'd got right. Okay, so where do we want to take this conversation on to? Do we want to talk about the pressures between commerce and the man, sticking it to the man even? Do we want to talk about the future of technology, this underground scene? Does it have to be underground? Do we want to talk about how to get the mainstream more interested in what's going on here? It's kind of up to you. Where do you want to take this conversation?
Just a comment on the underground. I feel like, although I want more exposure for people in the underground, I think some people kind of get off on being obscure. I think there's the whole hipster movement of being like, oh, you won't have heard of this band, and kind of wanting to know something that other people don't. And I reckon maybe there's a bit of moderation there, because you don't want to make everything too easy to find. Otherwise, it doesn't reward the curious as well, which I know is the opposite of what I just said earlier. But like,
well, it is in sense.
There is a sense of that, because it's like when you said you went to the Hacienda. It's like when you went to the Hacienda, did you go in the late 80s, or did you go in the early 90s when it was horrific? What was, so it's like that thing of what are you, at what stage of an arc of a thing, or is it worth getting involved in it at? But again, and where does it go when it gets into the mainstream, and how does it get into the mainstream? It's a very big question.
Okay. Anything on this side? You've not said much so far. Any thoughts about? I mean, the whole point of Talkaoke is up to you to. If you don't want to say anything, that's fine. No, I'm not. I'm not going to. Have you got something to say? Yeah.
Well, nothing really. No.
Yeah. Do you regard yourself as in the underground and the mainstream?
I would say, well, basically I'm a designer, and we are working on technology, and most of the technology we work on artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
And we are working on technology that would be able to develop itself.
Right.
And when it comes to creativity, it's kind of difficult to, like...
So it's self-creativity. Okay, let's just get some final thoughts from Harold and Ivan.
Yeah, it was nice being in this circle. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Final thought?
Enjoyed it, thank you. Cool. Okay.
But what about us? What about we're stuck in the life raft of experimentation and subversive culture? Are we going to crash against the cliffs, or are we going to find the true nirvana? That's the question. Okay, I guess no one is. Everyone's going. Okay, let's get some final thoughts in that. Let's give us some final thoughts before we actually, because I was just about to go and get a falafel when all of this happened, and then suddenly I was called to moderate this discussion. So maybe let's just get some final thoughts for this session. Hello. Okay, we're actually just about to close this down, but let's get a final and initial thought. But maybe it means I'll start on this side.
Yeah, I mean, I wish people would explore a little bit more when it comes to art and creativity, and I want more people to kind of get the success they deserve.
Okay.
Yeah. I think more people should step outside their comfort zone, and that's where things happen and creativity happens.
Is there a way to entice people outside the comfort zone, or is it just that it has to come from them?
I think it has to come from them, but I think a lot of people feel empowered when they do something which is A, outside of the comfort zone, and B, interesting or giving back, as opposed to just buying things. I think there will become a point where people will get so saturated with purchasing stuff that they will hopefully accept it.
Have people got fed up buying stuff?
You don't want to buy anything, do you?
No. Well, I want to buy a falafel shortly. I'm not going to... Nothing's going to stop me from doing that. Final thought?
Oh, well, I was saying, I mean, someone being commercially successful doesn't doesn't automatically mean that they stop being, artistic or creative, and they can use that, to inspire other people and to help nurture.
Can you give us an example of somebody?
I don't know, I was just off the top of my head. I was thinking, someone like David Bowie, David Byrne, people like, that really like explore their art forms and inspire other people. Yeah, pushing boundaries, exactly. Yeah.
Final thought?
Final thought. Well, I'm just very interested in seeing if there's a way that creative and immersive experiences can really connect people with a deeper level than sort of art and music has done so far. And maybe that could be a solution to this question of how is it more commercial, is it more underground, is it more, and maybe if you find a way that actually connects almost like spiritually with people, then it can be more universal, and then you can just create something that is really something for everyone.
And the question of commerce won't come into it. Well, that could be a starting point for the next session that we're going to do, post-falafel. You know, in a way, to me, that's more of a starting point. But it is something I think that's been on the table and it's part of the thinking that's happening today, definitely. How do we connect at a deeper level? And what will actually mean? What would it look like or feel like? Final thought?
Oh, loads of thoughts. I mean, when you said about success, I was kind of thinking, you know, how do we measure success? And then you said something about the social good or something different. Then you said about connecting, and I kind of thought, yeah, they're all... Yeah, something along those lines.
So maybe a more diverse sense of what success actually is, rather than just, you know, than either fame or riches. Oscar, final thought?
So the final thought is to be as underground as possible and be as successful as possible at the same time.
Okay.
Very hard skill to...
Okay, be underground and successful.
I don't have any final thoughts.
Have you got an initial thought? Tell us who you are. Tell us who you are.
I'm Tupac.
Okay,
I am
welcome.
not dead.
Okay, fantastic. Pleased to hear it. Pleased to hear it. Mate, I mean, we've had some... What's your name again? So we didn't get your name.
Fabio.
Fabio. We got Fabio's, in a way, thrown something in for what could be the starting point for the next discussion. Have you got something that you would like to throw in, a question that maybe... once we close down and open up again that we could talk about?
I missed most of your discussion, so I have no exactly idea where you're coming from
well,
right
that's
now.
In a way, that
But
for this question,
exactly.
this is an advantage.
So,
what would you like to talk
so
about?
I just came from seeing a brand new piece of equipment. That is, the idea of it is to democratize the idea of creating visuals and sending and lowering the price of everything, so that truly creative, powerful machines are not just for people that can afford them in the really expensive shows and the really expensive exhibitions, but rather bringing it down to a Raspberry. And the growth of the Raspberry as the actual tool in which we can actually all be creative at the same time.
So democratizing, in a way, democratizing the technology so that everyone, and anyway, it's so cheap, it's almost disposable. Okay, well, thanks very much for this session. I'm going to go and get some late lunch, and we will be firing this thing up very, very shortly. But thanks everyone so far. And, nice to meet you all. Yeah, thank you. I'll do my best, but it won't make me happy, of course. That was from a previous discussion.
It won't make me for a while.
Yeah, and then I'll have a sense of regret. Yeah, exactly.